Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. With movie award season quickly approaching, I thought what better way to get ready than to go over my 2024 Oscar predictions. In this video, I'm going to go through every single category that I have thoughts on so far, from Best Picture all the way down to the text. So, without further ado, let's jump into my predictions. Kicking things off with Best Picture right off the bat, I have Killers of the Flower Moon at number 1, Poor Things at 2, and Oppenheimer at 3. To me, those are the three big movies that are probably contending for this award. I currently have Killers at number 1 because I have seen the movie and it is by far my favorite film of the year so far. I think Martin Scorsese did a lot with that movie that is just fantastic. I love all the performances in the movie and I feel like the story hit me the hardest. I have Poor Things at number 2 just because it is my most anticipated movie of the year. I love Yorgos Lanthimos' movies. Emma Stone is my favorite actress, and this movie just looks like an absolute blast, and it is getting outstanding reviews. And then I have Oppenheimer at number 3, which is probably the front runner for a lot of people. I really enjoyed Oppenheimer, but just out of these three, it's definitely the lowest on my list. I then have Barbie at number 4. I think Barbie is solidly in the top 5 for Best Picture contenders this year. I don't think it really has a chance to win the award, but it has a very, very solid chance to get a nomination. I think that can be said. Everything I just said about Barbie can also transfer over to The Holdovers, which I unfortunately haven't seen yet. But Alexander Payne seems to get a lot of his movies into Best Picture, and I really think that this one's going to sneak in given the reviews out of the film festivals. I have Past Lives at number 6. I think Past Lives has a really good chance of getting in as well. This seems to be the A24 film that the movie studio is really getting behind. A lot of people have this movie towards the top of their favorites of the year so far. I really love this movie. It's a little bit more quiet. It didn't make a ton of money at the box office, but I really feel like that is the strongest indie low budget type of movie that's going to sneak in here in the Best Picture category. At number 7, I have Anatomy of a Fall. It seems like every single year we do get one international movie that sneaks into the Best Picture category, and with Anatomy of the Fall winning the Palme d'Or, it seems like it has the best chance. There is a lot of people raving about the directing, Sandra Hüller's performance, so I feel like that film has a solid chance of getting in as well. And then once we get into this 8, 9, 10, and beyond range, that's where the question marks start popping up for me personally. At number 8 and number 10, I have Maestro and May December, which are both Netflix films. Netflix is really good at campaigning movies to get into Best Picture, so there's for sure at least going to be one Netflix film getting in my opinion. Everyone seems to be leaning towards Maestro right now. I have it lower on my list, mostly because out of every film I've listed here in my top 10, Maestro is the one I'm the least excited for. It doesn't look that interesting to me. I don't really care about this type of movie, but I could be shocked when I see it. But for now, I'm kind of holding off on it. Um, Probably the most shocking movie I have on this list is May December. I don't think a lot of people have that in their predictions right now. But I just think if Maestro flops and a lot of people kind of have my feelings about the movie, I mean, I haven't seen it yet, so that's just kind of judging the film before I see it. But May December just looks a lot more interesting to me. Its current critic scores are also super high, so I could see May December just kind of being one of those late season surges to the top and sneaks in into the Best Picture category. And then the only film I haven't talked about here yet is The Color Purple, mostly because that's the movie we don't know anything about. We have a trailer for the movie. It comes out in December, but there hasn't really been any screenings. We don't know anyone's thoughts on the movie. The trailer looks really solid. It looks like a great movie. It's going to be a musical. The Steven Spielberg version back in the 80s got into Best Picture. It got a lot of Oscar nominations. I think got like 2 or 3, possibly more acting nominations. So it's has a solid chance of sneaking in here. But The Color Purple, if it comes out to some like mixed reviews and people aren't feeling it, that's one that could easily drop off here as well. But just trying to project into the future, this is the 10 that I feel like have the best chance of getting a Best Picture nomination. Scrolling down to my next 10 films that I feel like have a chance of getting into the Best Picture category as well, I have Air, which is just kind of like your feel good, super like laid back, easy to watch movie of the year. I feel like Amazon Studios will be pushing for this movie super hard, and I wouldn't be upset if it got in. It just doesn't feel like it has that it factor that I'm looking for when watching a Best Picture film, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if that sneaks in there, especially if those last few spots are kind of all over the place leading into Oscar nomination morning. At number 12, I have The Zone of Interest. A lot of people seem to like this movie, but a lot of people are mixed on it as well. A24 just dropped the trailer for this movie too. It seems very odd. The movie looks beautiful. The direction and shots in the trailer seem very solid. I just don't know where the story is going to go. It seems like it's a really weird film. It seems like the complete opposite of Air. Air is just your very safe, comfortable film, where Zone of Interest seems very experimental and kind of out there. So, depending on how the Oscars and the voting body are feeling, I could see either of these sneaking in. At 13 is probably the final film that I feel like has a decent shot of getting in, and that is um, the TIFF Audience Award winner, American Fiction. This is another movie I really haven't read too much about, but it got really solid reviews out of TIFF, and it has a couple acting nominations that could go along with it. And if that's the case, it could easily sneak its way into Best Picture, but I'm definitely going to hold off on that one till I hear more about it, till I see it for myself. Then, kind of after that, I have movies that have a really far outside shot of sneaking in. Sofia Coppola's Priscilla. We just got an Elvis movie nominated for Best Picture last year. I don't know if this one has a chance. Sofia Coppola hasn't really had any movies show up at the Oscars since like Lost in Translation in the early 2000s. 15, I have Naiad. This is one that I thought had a lot more going for it, but it seems like it got really mixed reviews, and a lot of people said the movie has issues coming out of the film festival, so I dropped it down a little bit. Same with Emerald Fennell's Saltburn. It seems like there's a lot of passion and love behind this movie, but apparently it's really out there, really strange, and seems to be something the Oscars wouldn't go for. All of Us Strangers probably has a better chance than some of these listed above it to get in, but I'd like to see it get a little bit more traction. For now, it seems like it's really just a critic darling. I haven't heard too many people outside of, film Twitter, film circles talking about this film. It's another movie that I'm really holding off on until I can see it for myself, just because I really don't know how to feel about this movie yet. 18, I have Ferrari, Michael Mann's new film starring Adam Driver and Penelope Cruz. Once again, has a chance, but it seems like it's definitely got some mixed reviews out of the film festivals. 19, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I just don't see an animated movie showing up in Best Picture this year, although Spider-Man is phenomenal in one of the best animated films we've seen in quite some time. So I'd be really happy it shows up, but I'm not sure. And then 20, I have Wonka, just in case that movie comes out and absolutely blows us away, as it's another movie that we just kind of have the trailers for. We don't really have any initial reactions. Moving on to director, I think director is a really fun category this year. At the top, we have the two powerhouses with Christopher Nolan and Martin Scorsese for Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon. These two are absolute locks. I don't see in any world where they miss. I'm personally probably leaning towards Scorsese myself, but I do feel like the passion behind Nolan is still there, and he's definitely the front runner, so I have him listed as number one. At number 3, I have Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things. He is nearing an absolute lock potential for me. Everyone is just raving about this film out of all the film festivals, so I have a hard time seeing how he misses, given how people are talking about this movie online. At number 4, I have Alexander Payne for The Holdovers. Once again, kind of holding out for this movie, want to see it for myself, but Alexander Payne has 3 previous nominations in directing, and people are saying this movie is just kind of like a nice, warm, fuzzy throwback type of movie to like 80s films, and they're saying it's his most complete film, his best directed film so far, and if all that pans out to be true, I don't see how he doesn't get his 4th nomination here. The 5th slot, I definitely went back and forth between about 3 or 4 different directors, but I ultimately went with Greta Gerwig for Barbie. That's mostly because A, I love Barbie myself personally, and B, I don't know if the directing branch is going to want to overlook her for being the highest grossing woman director of all time. She broke so many boundaries with this movie, and on top of that, it's just a fantastic studio film. Now, it being a studio film is where I'm kind of iffy. I'm not sure if the director's branch is going to want to go for one of these huge studio films because it does kind of have that polished feel throughout. And that's where I could see some of these other directors sneaking in. Bradley Cooper for Maestro, people are saying it's better than A Star is Born, and I could see him getting in if he showed a ton of improvement in this movie. Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest, people are saying this film's really out there. It's doing a lot of new, inventive, crazy things. And if his vision is that, fresh and amazing, I could easily see the director's branch wanting to credit him and getting him a nomination. Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall. This is like a courtroom drama, and I heard it has really good pacing, really good editing, great screenplay, and Justine Triet just absolutely paces this film perfectly, makes the film look wonderful, and I could see her sneaking in as well. Then through 9 through 11, these are people that are long shots, but if everything breaks their way, I could possibly see them getting in. Todd Haynes for May December. He's definitely had some Academy attention in the past. And if this movie just, takes off and it is Netflix's frontrunner, I could see him, leaping into that fifth slot. Celine Song for Past Lives. A lot of people thought she was going to get in earlier in the year, as this movie was probably the best film through the first 6 months of 2023. I think since this is her first film, she's definitely slipping down the list. She may win some, new director awards at different award ceremonies, but I kind of think she's a long shot to get into the Oscars at this point. And then at number 11, I have Emerald Fennell for Saltburn. I heard this movie just is a massive step up from Promising Young Woman, and she got, the Academy's attention with that film in the writing category, so it might be possible that she gets some recognition for direction, but once again, long shot. I do think this is probably between the top 8 people I have listed here currently. Moving on to the acting categories, I feel like all 4 of these acting categories are really fun right now. There is really no true lock for an entire category. There's a lot of switching out that can be done, so I'm really excited to, see how the Critics' Choice Awards, Golden Globes, SAGs, and all of that play out, because I think a lot of movement can take place. But we're going to kick things off with lead actress, and at number 1, I have Emma Stone for Poor Things. Initial reactions are this is Emma Stone's best performance ever, and if that's true, I don't see how she doesn't win the Oscar, given how she is just such an amazing actress, that if she really one-upped everything she's ever done in her career, she probably deserves this award. Number 2, though, is Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. She swapped from supporting actress and is now campaigning in lead actress, and I have to say she really is fantastic in Killers of the Flower Moon. That performance is a little bit more, like low-key, subdued, quiet, which we can kind of see that the Oscars normally goes for usually the louder and more bombastic performance, and that seems to be what Emma Stone is doing in Poor Things. But I could see Lily Gladstone taking home some early precursors and kind of building up and taking home the Oscar for lead actress because she is that phenomenal. Number 3, I have Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall. People have been praising this performance since it won the Palme d'Or, and I just feel like she really has a very, very strong chance of getting in. So those are the 3 that I feel are pretty much locked for the category. Then we kind of get into this jumbled mess where I could see, 4 through 10 on my list, any 2 of those sneaking in. I do have Carey Mulligan in for Maestro. Initial reactions really seem strong for the acting nominations. That's why I'm a little bit more iffy on Maestro as a Best Picture contender, but Carey Mulligan and Bradley Cooper seem to be doing lots of great things on the performance side of things, so I put her at number 4 for now. And then I put Greta Lee in at number 5 for Past Lives. That's mostly because I've seen Past Lives, and it's one of my favorite female performances of the year, and I would absolutely love to see Greta Lee get in here. I do think she is probably a bit more susceptible to falling down this list as precursors begin to announce their nominations, she's one that can definitely kind of get lost in the shuffle, unfortunately. At number 6, I have Natalie Portman in May December. Like I said in Best Picture, if Netflix really wants to push this movie, there's a nice package they can get with the performances and the writing, and possibly director, even if they want to go that far. But Natalie Portman has had, I believe, 3 nominations in the past, so it would not shock me if she snuck in here just off of like name value alone, especially if this category continues to be messy as the season rolls along. At number 7, I have Fantasia Barrino for The Color Purple. Once again, like I said in Best Picture, kind of holding off on this film until I can see it and really get a feel for this, although I do have some acting nominations predicted for this movie in a different category. At number 8, I have Margot Robbie for Barbie. I actually recently just watched this movie for a second time after it came out on 4K, and I really enjoyed her performance a lot more on this second viewing. I definitely think she has a shot to get in here, but something about that performance just makes it feel like she's going to get snubbed, and I could see, other people in this film getting in over her, or the Academy just not wanting to give, Barbie too many above the line nominations in case they just really don't like that, big studio film feel. At number 9, I have Kaylee Spaney for Priscilla. Once again, we kind of just got a Elvis film last year. It's definitely open for her to get in if she is that great, but I just have a feeling that this film is going to be left out of a lot of categories. And at number 10, I have Annette Bening in Naiad. Once again, this film seemed like it got really mixed reviews coming out of the festivals, so I decided to knock her down. But she is Annette Bening. It would not surprise me at all if she did show up, Oscars morning with a nomination. Moving on to lead actor, I have Cillian Murphy at number 1 for Oppenheimer. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, when talking about all the frontrunners, I think he by far gives the best performance that I've seen so far in this category, and I have a feeling he has the opportunity to really run away with this award and just sweep the entire award season. At number 2, I have Leonardo DiCaprio in Killers of the Flower Moon. He is phenomenal in this movie. He's Leo. We're used to seeing him get nominated. I'm not sure if this is where he wins his second Oscar, though, in my opinion. At number 3 is probably the person that I feel is also a lock, is Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers. He looks really entertaining in the trailer, and I'm super excited to see this movie, and it seems like a lot of people love his performance as well from initial reactions that I've seen. And then we kind of get into the mixed bag once again. Number 4, same thing I said for Carey Mulligan in lead actress. I have Bradley Cooper for Maestro. A lot of people seem to be singing the praises of the performances in this movie, and at this point in time, I just don't see how either of them miss, so I have him at number 4. And then at number 5, I have Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. Since this movie has a possibility to contend for, screenplay and best picture, I have it in there. I have Jeffrey in there over Coleman Domingo and Rustin. Rustin got extremely kind of like negative to mixed reviews, but people said he's outstanding in the film. His performance is great. But if the movie isn't that good, I could easily see him getting lost in the shuffle, or just a lot of Academy voters just not going out to see the movie, see the screeners, and he just slowly slips down the list. But I would not be surprised if he gets into the mix as well. Then 7 through 12, I kind of have very mixed feelings about. You could swap these 6 people in any which order you want, and I wouldn't complain. I just have a hard time seeing any of them get nominated over the main 6 I have listed. But if American Fiction kind of fades out of the limelight, if Maestro isn't that good, if Rustin slips down the list like I was saying, you could see a weird mix of all these other actors get in there. I really don't have too much to say about any of them, as I don't think any of them are the ones I have seen in Past Lives in Air. I don't think are the best performances of the year by any means, but they're definitely Oscar nomination worthy if the cards fall in the right direction. And then the rest are just kind of actors that have, they've been here before, or people are saying that they are absolutely phenomenal, and I just haven't had the chance to see them yet. I heard Barry Keoghan and Andrew Scott are phenomenal in Saltburn and All of Us Strangers. Adam Driver has popped up at the Academy Awards a couple times before. I don't know how to feel about that. And then I have Anthony Hopkins down there at the bottom, because Freud's Last Session is another movie we don't know too much about. I think it's coming out in December, but Anthony Hopkins is Anthony Hopkins, and you can't count him out, of any Oscar race right out the bat. So this category is definitely, um, I feel like it's more concentrated at the top for who can get in, but if all hell breaks loose, there's like a big pool of actors, I should say, that can definitely sneak in there and get a nomination. Next is supporting actress, which may be the most exciting acting category so far, mostly because I don't feel super confident about any of these picks, and I could see an actor I don't even have listed in this top 10 sneaking in for a nomination. But the two I feel the most confident in are Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers and Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer. People have been singing the praises of Divine Joy Randolph since The Holdovers premiered at the film festivals. And once again, just like the trailer showed for Paul Giamatti, I think she looks very solid in this film, and I'm really excited to check this movie out. And number two, I have Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer. Emily Blunt doesn't show up a whole lot in this movie. She is a very brief, supporting actress performance, but I think that true Oscar moment scene at the end of the film during the hearing is going to be enough to sneak her in just because Oppenheimer is so much of a front runner. And number three, I have Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple. This specific role got nominated for the Oscars back in the 80s with Steven Spielberg's version. So if this movie is as good as it seems to be by the trailers, I easily think Danielle Brooks will get in here, so I have her slotted at number three. At number four, I have Julianne Moore from May December. Julianne Moore is just a beloved actress. She's showed up in a lot of amazing movies, and I've also heard lots of praises about her in this film. So I have a hard time seeing her not, sneak in if May December does creep up the, ladder like I'm predicting since I had it in my Best Picture 10 slot. And for the last slot, I have Viola Davis in Air. Just because this category is such a mess, I feel like Viola Davis has the most solid, concrete performance in Air. I don't think it's pushing any boundaries. I don't think it's, mind-blowing phenomenal, but she is great in Air. And if there's just a lot of mess and a lot of people voting in random areas, I think Viola Davis is just kind of that rock that a lot of people would put in between their 3 to 5 slot when picking who they want nominated. So I think she has a really solid chance to get in currently, before all the precursors start to roll out. Then we have Taraji P. Henson at The Color Purple. Once again, just kind of holding out for The Color Purple. I feel like Danielle Brooks has the best chance of any of the actors or actresses in this movie so far. But if this movie comes out, really wows people, I could easily see Taraji P. Henson making it in as well. Penelope Cruz is an Academy darling in Ferrari. Even if that movie doesn't, get on the radar for a lot of awards this year, I think Penelope Cruz always has a shot to get in. Jodie Foster for Nyad. Once again, she was easily in my top 5 before the mixed reactions of this movie came out. But, if people get behind her and Annette Bening, I could easily see both of them slowly working their way up my rankings. America Ferrera and Barbie. If the Academy really gets behind Barbie and pushes that movie into a lot of categories, I could see it because America has that fantastic monologue, about how women, function in everyday society, and that is a great monologue that is definitely has Oscar-worthy clip moments in there. But since I had Margot out, I think I have to leave America out because I think Margot would get a nomination before America Ferrera did. But if we start seeing them pop up, I could easily see her sneaking in as well. And then number 10, I have Rosamund Pike in Saltburn. I just heard that she shows up a little bit later in this movie, probably about halfway through, but she absolutely steals every single scene that she's in. And if she is truly that good in the movie, once again, if this movie is just kind of like a jumbled mess, she could sneak in, especially if The Color Purple comes out and it's got mixed reviews, or May December fades into darkness, nobody cares about Ferrari. There's opportunities for her to work their way up. And I also just don't feel confident about this 10 overall either. There could be people off this list that will sneak in later as well. So that's why I think this category is just so much fun to follow. But I do feel really confident about my 5 right now, at least as confident as I can be in October before anything has really been announced at any of these award bodies. Supporting actor is by far the acting category I feel the most confident in currently. I think Robert De Niro, Ryan Gosling, Robert Downey Jr., and Mark Ruffalo are almost already locked into their slots just because they play massive roles in probably four of the five biggest Oscar contenders this year. Out of the movies I've seen, Killers of the Flower Moon, Barbie, and Oppenheimer, Robert De Niro is my favorite performance so far, but Ryan Gosling is right there. And if you're asking me today, I'd probably rather see Ryan Gosling win the Oscar just because it'd be so fun to see him go up there and accept the award for playing Ken in the Barbie movie. I think that would just be absolutely amazing. Robert Downey Jr. is probably most people's frontrunner right now. I just personally didn't see too much from him in this movie. I mean, it's definitely Oscar nomination worthy. I don't know if it's winner worthy. I much prefer Cillian Murphy in the leading role. But I could also be a little bit biased because the courtroom scenes and the second half of Oppenheimer are my least favorite part about the movie, and that's where Robert Downey Jr. has the most screen time. So you can take with what I'm saying with a grain of salt, just because I'm not fully bought into that performance, I guess. And then number 4, I have Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. I just heard he's absolutely hilarious in this movie. He's fantastic in the role. And Mark Ruffalo has been nominated before, so I could easily see him getting in for Poor Things. And then once again, this 5th slot is where I can see a lot of messiness happening. Currently, I have Charles Melton in for May December, and that's mostly because, once again, I have May December in my top 10 currently. So I think he would have to come along with that if he is to, if the movie is to get nominated in Best Picture. But Willem Dafoe for Poor Things, if Poor Things turns out to be the front runner and will possibly win Best Picture, I could easily see the double nomination happening. Dominic Sessa in The Holdovers, this is his first major role in a movie, so that's kind of why I have him on the outside looking in, but people said he's just as great as Paul Giamatti and Divine Joy Randolph, who I consider locks for their acting categories. So if the acting is that good in this movie across the board, he could get in. John Magero for Past Lives is probably the best actor performance in that movie for me personally, but once again, I think he's just kind of on the outside looking in. And then 9 through 12 are just some additional performances I threw in there that if everything breaks their way, they could get in, but I really think it's between these top 8 actors, but Coleman Domingo, Jacob Elordi, Paul Mescal, and Sterling K. Brown. You know, if these movies kind of surge to the top or get a second life, throughout the award season, do not be shocked if one of them sneaks their way into the category. Moving on to the screenplay categories, I've adapted screenplay up first. I have the 3 frontrunners right off the bat: Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, Oppenheimer. I think they're absolute locks to get in. And right behind that, I have American Fiction. After winning the TIFF Audience Award, I think American Fiction has a very, very solid chance of getting in as well. Just because there isn't a lot of competition beyond that. I do have The Color Purple at number 5 currently. I don't know, it's a musical, and I feel like musicals don't get screenplay a lot of the time, but it just seems to be the biggest movie out of the rest of the films I have listed here, so I have it at number 5 right now, but I do not feel confident in it. At number 6, I have Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I don't think this movie is going to get nominated, but I have it at number 6, mostly because I think this movie deserves to get an Oscar nomination. The adaptation of this, the film adaptation of this book is fantastic. I think Rachel McAdams probably deserves the supporting actress nomination, but that's never going to happen in a million years either. But I think it'd be really cool if this film was able to sneak in, but I think it's a very, very long shot. At number 7, I have The Zone of Interest. Once again, this is a movie that seems kind of experimental. I don't know how to feel about it. Based off the trailer, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of dialogue in the film, so I have a hard time seeing how it gets into screenplay if there isn't a lot of dialogue, or I just don't know if that's how the trailer's edited. I'll be interested to check that one out. All of Us Strangers, I think, has a really strong chance as well if everything breaks its way, because people have been raving about that movie. People have been crying at screenings apparently, and it's really moving them. So if that really is the tearjerker of this award season, I could easily see that sneaking into the 5. And then I have Spider-Man, Ferrari, and Naiad at 9, 10, and 11. Kind of more long shots here. I would not be upset if Spider-Man got in. I just think an animated movie is definitely a long shot. Ferrari, like I said, I think it's kind of on the outside looking in, and the same with Naiad. But you know, if the older voting body gets behind Naiad, I could see that one slowly climbing up the ranks as well. Then we have original screenplay, which also is kind of like a mixed bag of a lot of movies. Number one, I have Barbie. Hopefully, the Academy lets Barbie be an original screenplay and doesn't force it to go into adapted, because I think Barbie just runs away with this Oscar if it stays an original. And I think it'd be such a fantastic win to get Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach on the stage, talking about the Barbie movie. I think that'd just be such a fun win and acceptance speech. So I really hope it stays an original and can take home the win. And number two, I have the holdovers. Once again, it's a top five best picture contender, so I have to have it at number two. Three, I have Past Lives. Absolutely phenomenal screenplay. Probably one of the best of the year. It just hits you right in the heart, hits you deep. I love the screenplay for Past Lives, and it deserves the nomination. Four, I have Anatomy of a Fall. With that kind of being a courtroom drama, I just don't see how it wouldn't get in, especially considering all the praise it's getting. I will hold off a little bit until I'm able to see the movie, but in my eyes, if this is just a straight up more like courtroom drama, kind of like mystery, not a mystery movie, but I guess just kind of like that courtroom drama back and forth, I don't see how it wouldn't get in. And then number five, I've May December. Once again, the two Netflix movies here, I don't know what to do with them. I put May December in just because it looks like a more screenplay driven film. Maestro doesn't look to be, very, strongly driven by the script. I could be completely wrong there. Like I said, I've not seen either of these movies yet, but my gut is just telling me to go with May December currently, but it could easily be Maestro. Seven, I have Air. And once again, Air is just kind of like that solid rock sitting there. If a couple of these movies lower on my list just absolutely blow up and, don't do anything, they just kind of like fizzle out, blow up, go away, Air could easily just sneak in there, as it's just a very, very solid film. And then on the off chance of things going completely off the wall, I have Priscilla, Saltburn, and Rust in there as well. Kicking off the tech categories, I have cinematography. I have the three front runners up top there with Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Poor Things. This will kind of be a reoccurring thing throughout a lot of these tech categories. I think these three movies are going to get a lot of nominations. And for this one specifically, I would not be upset if Killers or Oppenheimer took home the award. I just think Oppenheimer is the movie most people remember as a spectacle, going to see it in IMAX, the big bomb testing scene, it made a ton of money. To me, that just seems like the true frontrunner here. At number four, I have Saltburn. That trailer just looks fantastic as well. It looks like there's a lot of weird shots and interesting camera things going on. So I think the cinematography branch will go for a movie like that. And at number five, I have The Zone of Interest. That trailer that just dropped, that's only like a minute long, has some beautiful looking cinematography. And that seems like a movie that's more experimental, more out there. It has a better chance of getting into a category like this than some of the above the line categories. So I can see that making it in here. Then 6 through 10, Color Purple. That trailer looks very good as well. I could see them going for that. The Holdovers, people are saying it's Alexander Payne's best looking movie, so I could see that sneaking in too. Past Lives, I really loved a lot of the cinematography there. It's very simple, but it's very effective. And then at 9 and 10, I have Maestro and Asteroid City. Maestro has some black and white moments. It seems like the cinematography branch can be a sucker for that from time to time. And then 10, Asteroid City. I always just think Wes Anderson movies look fantastic, and Asteroid City isn't an exception, so I have to put it there, but these are definitely a long shot. I think I'm very, very solid for my top five here currently. Costumes, I have Barbie at number one. I think that movie can easily run away with that. I do think Poor Things will give it a run for its money though, because Poor Things has some really wonky outfits going on. Killers of the Flower Moon has all the beautiful Osage Nation costumes and outfits in it that look fantastic, especially the final shot of the movie has a lot going on. So I could see that sneaking in here. The Color Purple, once again, just a very, very big musical, that's set in the past. So there's going to be a lot of period outfits in that movie as well. And there's going to be a ton of them, as there looks to be some pretty big dance numbers in there. And 5, I have Wonka, just for that kind of like fantasy dreamlike, child wonder type of costume aspect. Oppenheimer has a lot of great costumes too, for the time period. Priscilla will have a lot of wild costumes, I'm guessing, for the time period, as well as I'm sure Priscilla Presley wore a lot of crazy stuff throughout her lifetime. Napoleon, maybe. I just don't see that movie showing up a lot. An Oscar nomination morning. Maestro, once again, a period piece. And 10, The Hunger Games. The costumes in the new Hunger Games movie don't look as crazy as the original four films, but if that trailer is just holding back some wild scenes and there's some very extravagant costumes, I could see the Hunger Games sneaking in there as well. For makeup and hairstyling, I have Poor Things at number one. Willem Dafoe looks to be wearing a lot of prosthetics. There just seems to be a lot of weird makeup on Emma Stone's face too, and there's a lot of, other side characters too that seem to be really done up in the trailers. Two, I have Barbie. That's mostly just for all the different outfits and swapping that goes along. I could see some of that makeup getting there, but I do think costumes are more prominent in Barbie than the makeup and hairstyling. Three, I have Priscilla, mostly just because Priscilla always had some very, very big hair back from that time period, so I could easily see that sneaking in here. Maestro, Bradley Cooper is wearing like a prosthetic nose that's already generated some controversial opinions. And at five, I do have Oppenheimer, as there's some aging makeup mostly going on for Robert Downey Jr., but a few other characters get some touches here and there as well. I mostly have The Color Purple at number six for hairstyling over makeup. The makeup in the trailer doesn't look too extravagant, but there seems to be a lot of hair work going on. Naiad, I believe there's some prosthetics going on there as well. Guardians of the Galaxy definitely has a lot of makeup and hairstyling going on. But some of that's CGI too, so, take that one with a grain of salt. Killers of the Flower Moon, Leonardo DiCaprio has some like false teeth in. Some of the characters have some makeup on as well. Wonka, if that movie just kind of exceeds expectations currently and is really out there, I could possibly see that showing up. And then once again, I have Napoleon there just because that seems to be more of the war film of this year, since there's really no big war film contending this year, but a lot of that usually shows up in makeup as well. But I feel pretty solid about my top five currently. The only thing that could really upset that, I think, is if The Colored Purple is a massive contender. For film editing, I have the big three up top once again: Oppenheimer, Killers, Poor Things. In my opinion, I think Oppenheimer will run away with this one as well. I feel like the editing is something you really, really remember from this film. Personally, I'd probably prefer to see Killers win, mostly because the editing makes the pacing so fantastic in that film. If the film wasn't as edited as well as it is, that movie would really, really drag. But I think Oppenheimer definitely has the more flashy and memorable editing so far this year. Poor Things I have there, Yorgos usually has really solid editing in his films, so I had to throw that in there. The Holdovers, that's kind of like the one movie I haven't seen yet that a lot of people said the editing is really solid and paces the movie really well, so I have that at number four. And then from here on out, these are kind of playing it by ear. I really want to see these movies before I give an official opinion on it. But I have Anatomy of a Fall at five, mostly because it is a courtroom type of drama film, and I feel like if that is to be a really good film, you have to have really good editing, really good pacing for that to work. So I have that at number five, and it was one of the front runners on Gold Derby as well. At six, I have Barbie. I rewatched Barbie recently. I don't think the editing's anything outstanding, but it's just one of these movies I've had a chance to see, so I have it higher up on the list. But other than that, the rest of these are just kind of my best picture contenders, in order as they appeared on the Gold Derby odds, and I'll have more opinion on this category as I begin to see more of these films. Production design, I think Barbie should run away with this. That is the most insane set design I've seen in quite some time. That movie looks phenomenal. All the different shades of pink, the fake Barbie dream houses. I would be very upset if Barbie doesn't take home this Oscar. I do think Poor Things is the movie that can give it a run for its money, as that movie has like a very fantastical, like dreamlike wonder to it, and the production design really helps amplify that atmosphere in the trailers. So that's the only movie I see here that could play spoiler, but I think Barbie is the true front runner. Killers of the Flower Moon had some fantastic production design, in my opinion. It really took you back to the 1920s. Same with Oppenheimer, took you back to that World War II era, with a lot of its, like home design, home decor, and things like that. And then Five Eye of Wonka, just because, those bigger fantasy like films that kind of take you to another land easily get into this category. And Wonka looks really good from the trailer. But other than that, I think this is a pretty thin category. Color Purple, once again, if that takes off. Asteroid City probably deserves a nomination, but it's going to go overlooked. Saltburn, if it does sneak up a little bit more, that looks good from the trailer. Priscilla, if there is a lot of production design going in to take you back to when Priscilla was young and kind of, like the home decor and atmosphere, kind of similar to what I said for Killers and Oppenheimer, maybe it could sneak in, especially if Wonka turns out to not be good. And then once again, Napoleon, just because that's really taking you further back than than any of these other films. And if that has good production design, I could see that sneaking in too. For score, I only have 5 movies listed here currently. Score is kind of something I really like to experience for myself before giving an opinion on it, and Gold Derby doesn't even have odds on this category yet, but I think Killers has the best score so far, in my opinion. Oppenheimer also has a very memorable score. Poor Things, if it's anything like the trailer displays, it highly, highly deserves a nomination. I absolutely love the music that's in the trailer, and that's the only reason why I have it here. At 4, I have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. If there's any area outside of Best Animated Feature where it could sneak in, I think it's here, but I think one of these late season contenders will probably overtake it. And at 5, I have Indiana Jones. I'm not sure if they'll give John Williams this nomination here. He has so many Oscar nominations in the past, and the Indiana Jones score is so memorable. They might just do it for the sake of nominating John Williams. But I don't think there's a whole lot of new music that stood out to me here, but we'll kind of see. But these are just kind of the 5 that have stuck with me the most so far this year, so I stuck them here. For sound, I have Oppenheimer at number 1. I think this is another category that Oppenheimer is just going to run away with the bomb scene and everything going on just in that segment alone. At 2, I have Poor Things, as there seems to be a lot of wacky things going on, so I'm sure there'll be some fun sound design there. Killers of the Flower Moon had really good sound as well. I just don't see that being a front runner, but just because it's a top 3 contender in Best Picture, I think it'll secure a nomination. 4, The Color Purple. It's a musical. Even if this film kind of, like slides down a little bit, I think it could easily get in here. And at 5, I have Barbie. There's a lot of fun sound effects in there as, they're throwing costumes or they're hitting different things that are basically plastic. So I think Barbie, is just kind of like a really fun nomination too. Ferrari could easily sneak in. The Academy loves their racing sequences. I don't know how much, like how many car scenes are in Ferrari, because I haven't seen the movie yet, but if there's a lot of that going on, that could get in. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 has a lot of great sound work. I don't know if that's going to get in here. It definitely flopped at the box office. It's kind of just a genre film, but it's highly deserved if it gets in here. Kind of same things with the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Super fun movie. Could easily get in. Has a lot of fun sound design going on. Maestro, just because it's a movie about music once again. And then The Holdovers, just because that kind of rounds out my top 5 Best Picture contenders. And sometimes those frontrunners just get, nominations for being one of the best movies of the year. I think visual effects is one of the more fun categories this year, as this could go a lot of different directions. I think initially a lot of people were thinking The Creator was going to win this, but after that absolutely bombed at the box office and got really mixed reviews, I just don't even see that showing up. So I do have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That seems to be the big Marvel movie this year. They love to nominate Marvel movies here, so I think it is the front runner currently. And also the visual effects branch really loves the use of a lot of CGI and, loud in-your-face visual effects. So that's why I definitely have that number 1. Number 2, I have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, just for that whole aspect where Tom Cruise base jumped off a mountain and then they had to CGI in the entire ramp that he jumped off of, and then there's the entire train sequence where it's dangling off a cliff. There's a lot of fun things going on in Mission Impossible, and that would probably be my personal pick currently. I have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse here. just because so many different animation styles and elements and man hours were put into this movie. I think it deserves this nomination. But I could also see the visual effects branch just not going for it because it is an animated movie. I'm kind of interested to see where that film will end up. At 4, I have Poor Things. I'm not quite sure how many visual effects are going on there, but all the skies look to be like really pink and orange, and it seems like that reflects onto the lighting of the sets. And then there's like the weird animals that Emma Stone is feeding in the trailers, like the half chicken, half dog animals. I'm not sure how much that type of thing pops up throughout the runtime, but if they're in there quite a bit, I could see that sneaking in just for it being a front runner. And then I have Oppenheimer at 5. Like I said at the beginning of this category, they usually like the loud CGI in your face, but visual effects can still be practical effects, and Oppenheimer was almost all practical effects. So this is another movie I'm interested to see what happens if the visual effects branch is like, nope, not enough CGI. You had too small of an effects team. I could see it slipping out, or I could see them really appreciating what Nolan and the crew did there. At 6, I have Wonka. You know, it looks like there's like the Oompa Loompas that are shrunk down. There's a lot of like magical different things going on. I can see that getting in. Then I have the Marvels, if they want to nominate another MCU movie. Transformers, there's just a lot of CGI going on there. Indiana Jones for the de-aging, which didn't look that good, but who knows, it's Disney. And then 10, The Little Mermaid, just another Disney film to throw in there as well. And the final category I'm going to be talking about today is animated feature. Number 1 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm going to be very upset if this doesn't win. This is the highest reviewed movie on Letterboxd of all time. It's one of the best reviewed animated movies of all time. I think many people just adore this film. At number 2, I have The Boy and the Heron. This was a highly anticipated movie for a lot of people. I haven't had the chance to check it out yet, but it seems like it isn't universally as loved as Spider-Man, so I have it at number 2. Elemental, perfectly fine Pixar movie, had a lot of legs at the box office and ended up making its money back and probably broke even when everyone thought it'd be a flop, but it seems like people came around to enjoy this movie. 4, Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. Once again, not a lot of opinions or, viewpoints on this movie out there yet, as a lot of people haven't seen it, but it is a stop motion film, and I feel like the animation branch absolutely loves to go for things like that. And then number 5, I think, is more of the toss-up area. I have Disney's Wish in there just because Disney loves to get nominated at the Oscars, but I think the love is a lot stronger for Nimona and TMNT Mutant Mayhem, so I think those two probably have a chance to really surge and get in there because I've seen the trailer for Wish. It doesn't look that interesting in my opinion, but I never count out Disney, so that's why I have Wish at number 5 for now. And then I have Suzume and the Super Mario Brothers at 8 and 9. I don't see either of these movies getting nominated, but I'll toss them in there just because, Super Mario Brothers made $1 billion, and Suzume has a lot of fans as well, but I just don't think it's going to translate to a nomination. And then before anyone goes in the comments and is angry that I didn't talk about these categories, I just left them out because I really don't have anything to talk about at this time. The documentaries, I have not seen any documentaries from this year so far. I have not seen any short films from this movie so far. I'm not too sure what films have been submitted for the foreign language film, and I know some different weird wonky ones that you wouldn't think can get nominated there, so I didn't feel like I wanted to comment on those. And then original song is probably the last big category I didn't talk about, and that's just because I don't know what original songs are going to be in a lot of these movies that are coming out at the end of the year. Currently, it's probably just What Was I Made For and I'm Just Ken from the Barbie movie that I would say have a pretty good chance of getting in, but beyond that, I have no idea what could show up there. That's definitely a category I will comment on as we get closer to the Oscars and actual nomination morning. Well, there you have it. My Oscar predictions as of October 2023. What are your thoughts on my predictions? What do you think I got wrong? Who are some people you hope get nominated? Please let me know in the comments down below. I know it's October. I'm going to get a lot of these wrong. We're all going to get a lot of our predictions wrong currently. But I thought it was just going to be fun to go through and just kind of talk about where I'm currently standing on a lot of these movies, especially because I've only seen a handful of them so far. So it's kind of fun just to kind of gauge where reviews are at and kind of think where I believe the Oscars are going to go. Once again, this is more just for fun. I know a lot of these are probably going to be wrong, so no need to flame me in the comments, but I'm happy to talk about what you guys think is going to happen, what you thought about my nominations. Let's just have a fun time down in the comment section. But other than that, I hope you guys all have a fantastic rest of your day. Have a good one.